Hello everyone and welcome to a new course on Codecademy. So we are going to start learning Ruby. From what I know, Ruby is kind of similar to Python, but of course as all languages are, they also have slight differences. So I would recommend that you have at least some knowledge maybe, but of Python not really recommend, but that would be useful. If you don't, this course starts from pretty much level 0. And we build on that, so that's fine. If you would like to check out my Python course, then feel free. You can search up the playlist on Python. But let's get started. So let's see an overview and what to expect. So Ruby is a powerful, flexible programming language you can use in web and internet development to process text, to create games, and as part of the popular Ruby on Rails web framework. So they also have a course called Ruby on Rails. I haven't done videos on that, but you can also check it out. So it's a high-level language, which means reading and writing Ruby is really easy compared to, I don't know, perhaps C or Little Man's Computer. If you've heard of that, you can Google it to see what it is. Or definitely simpler than binary, because binary is zeros and ones. And it looks a lot like regular English. That's basically what high-level means. Also, it's interpreted, so it can be compiled or interpreted. So for example, C++ is compiled. C# I believe also is compiled. Python I believe is interpreted, and Ruby is similar to Python in that it's interpreted. So interpreted means that you don't need a compiler to write and run Ruby. You can write it here at Codecademy or even on your own computer. So many are shipped with the Ruby interpreter already built in, so we'll get to the interpreter later in the lesson. So basically what it means that it's interpreted, it means that what the translator does, so basically a translator is something that converts the text that you write, so the code that you write, into binary, because a computer can only understand binary. That's what a translator does. The two types of translators are compiler and interpreter, and the interpreter runs one line, then executes the line, then it goes to the next line, then gives you the result of the next line. A compiler goes through all of the code and then gives you the execution of the code. Okay? You can also Google that if you didn't understand it, and if you don't understand it still, then do feel free to post a comment down below. I will get back to you as soon as possible. It's also object-oriented, which is quite good. It means it allows users to manipulate data structures called objects in order to build and execute programs. We'll learn more about objects later. So objects are a bit more advanced, so I'm not going to go into them right now. But for now, all you need to know is everything in Ruby is an object. And it's easy to use. Ruby was designed by, excuse my pronunciation, Yukihiro Matsumoto, often just called Mats, cool stuff, in 1995. Mats set out to design a language that emphasized human needs over those of the computer, which is why Ruby is so easy to pick up. So this course assumes no previous knowledge of Ruby in particular or programming computer science in general. Which is why I said you don't actually have to have any knowledge of Python, but it would be helpful if you did have knowledge of some other programming language. It doesn't even have to be Python. Okay, so now that we covered some of the basics, sneak peek, overview and stuff, let's aim and submit code, and let's start with the next lesson. So let's start with the simplest things. Data types, let's start with numbers, strings and booleans. You're probably going to be using these in every program that you write. Well, maybe booleans not as much, but definitely numbers and strings. Booleans are also used quite often, but in starting programs, they're not used as often. You will see why. So in Ruby, your information or data can come in different types. There are 3 data types in Ruby that we're interested in right now. Numbers, booleans, which can be true or false, and strings, words or phrases like I'm learning Ruby. A string is basically a list of characters, and a character is just literally one character. A space also counts as a character. Computer programs exist to quickly analyze and manipulate data. So for this reason, it's important for us to understand the different data types that we can use in our programs, i.e. numbers, booleans, and strings for now. Reminder, never use quotation marks, single or double with booleans, or Ruby will think you're talking about a string, a word or a phrase, instead of a value that can be true or false. So for true or false, you just write true or false without quotation marks. It's also important to remember that Ruby is case sensitive, and most programming languages are, so it cares about capitalization. So for example, my string would mean something different to, say, my string, like this, or something like that. And if you set this to be equal to something, this and this have two different meanings. Don't confuse that. So what we need to do is set the following variables to the corresponding values. So my number, we need to set to the value of 25. My boolean, we need to set to the value of true. And also notice the difference between Ruby and Python. True and false don't have a capital T or F respectively. They have a lowercase t or f. From the most languages I know, I'm pretty sure that they have lowercase. I don't know why Python has uppercase for boolean, but oh well. And then we have my string to the value of Ruby. So let's do that. There's probably quite a good reason why Python has an uppercase, but yeah. Let's save and submit, and that is good. Nothing should have actually came up on the console, but because this is Codecademy, sometimes it does weird things. But moving on. Basically, when I say console, I just mean the output screen here, just this black box. So variables. One of the most basic concepts in computer programming is the variable. You can think of a variable as a word or name that grasps a single value. So it holds something, a container for something basically. So for example, let's say you needed the number 25 from our last example, but you're not going to use it right away. You can set a variable, say my number, to grasp the value of 25 and hang onto it for later use, like this. So like we did before, my num equals 25. So now instead of having to use 25 everywhere, you can just use my num. Or if that wouldn't make much sense with the number such as 25, but if your number was, say, 10 digits long, then it might make more sense. But sometimes variables aren't just useful because the number is too long. They're useful because you can change how they work, and you will see what I mean as we move into the course. So declaring variables in Ruby is easy. You just write out a name, like my num, use equal to, single equal to, notice that, because double equal to means something else, to assign it a value, and you're done. If you need to change the variable, no sweat, just type it again and hit equal to assign it a new value. So basically what it's saying is my num equals 25, and now if you want to set it to equal something else, my num equals 27. So because I spelled it with the same capitalization, I have the same variable in both cases, but at the end of line 3 it's going to equal 27. At the end of line 1 it's going to equal 25. But I did manage to change it. Okay, so instructions, set the variable my num. Oh, okay, I actually deleted that, but I can Ctrl Z to the value 100. Then click the run button to run your code. Good, we did that successfully. Moving on. So then we have math. Maths, whatever you want to call it, mathematics, doesn't matter. So Ruby isn't limited to simple expressions of assignment like my num equals 100. If it was, then that would be quite stupid. It can also do all the math you learned about in school, if you have. There are 6 arithmetic operators we're going to focus on. So you have addition, quite self-explanatory, subtraction, multiplication, division, exponentiation. So basically, normally if you were searching for something to the power of something, on the internet you write a number, then this symbol, and so this would mean 3453 to the power of 34. Or if you were writing it on paper, you would probably put big numbers 3, 4, 5, 3, and then small numbers on the top 3, 4. So basically, exponentiation in this case would mean if you wanted to do the operation of 2 to the power of 3, instead of writing this symbol here that I'm selecting, you write double times sign. And that value is going to be equal to 8, because 2 to the power of 3 equals 8. Then you also have modulo. So the only ones that probably look weird to you are exponentiation and modulo, so as I was talking. So let's see whether there's an explanation of modulo. So exponentiation raises one number, so the base, to the power of the other number, the exponent. For example, 2 to the power of 3 is 8. Oh wow, they actually used the same example as I did. Since 2 to the power of 3 means give me 2 times 2 times 2. 2 multiplied together 3 times. And 3 to the power of 2 is equal to 9 as 3 times 3, and so on. So modulo, so the percentage sign operator, returns the remainder of division. So for example, 25 modulo 7 would be 4, since 7 goes into 25 3 times, so 7 times 3 is 21, and then 25 minus 21 is 4. So you get 4. So if you did mynum equals 25 percentage, which is modulo 7, and then you did something like print mynum, what you should get is 4. And ignore the nil there, but we got a 4 there. The nil is there just because that's not actually what we're supposed to be doing. But basically, you're dividing 25 as many times as you can by 7, and then outputting the remainder. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. Instructions. Do a little math practice in the editor. When you're ready, click Save and Submit Code to move on to the next exercise. Oops, try again, make sure you do a little... Oh, okay. 6 to the power of 3. Why not? Is that good enough for you? Yep. And it prints it out as 216. Perfect. Moving on. Puts and print. So as you saw before, I used the command print. So let's actually see what it is. So the print command just takes whatever you give it and prints it to the screen. In our case here, the black box. Well, I don't know whether... It's not really black, it's kind of dark blue, but that doesn't matter. Puts for put string is slightly different. It adds a new blank line after the thing you wanted to print. So you use them like this. You have put string or puts, what's up, and then print Oxnard Montalvo. So basically what puts does is puts a new line character in front of it or after it. It adds line after the thing you want to print. So after it is going to put a new line character basically. No parentheses or semicolons are needed, although you can actually use them. I don't think that they matter. So in the editor, use at least one print, okay, statement and at least one put statement. I'm going to change the order of them just to test things out. There we go. You can print out any strings you like. Make sure to put strings between quotes like this. So if it's a string, it has to have quotation marks around it. I'm pretty sure that single quotation marks also work if it follows the rules of Python. So let's put that in there and then something else in there. You can be more creative than me. You don't have to. But okay, so sorry about that. Puts a new line character after itself. So as you see, now when they're like this, the two lines are merged because there's no new line character, so they print right after each other. But if I put puts in front of print, then they're both on different lines. And that's because here there's a new line character, which normally you would write as /n. And that means protected n, which would mean new line. So if, for example, I put a new print statement here with something else, let's actually start it and end it with a number, just so that we can distinguish it. Save and submit. As you can see, now it's on one line. But let's try double quotation marks actually. And there we go. Save and submit code. Now, because I have the /n there, it's not on a single line. Without the /n, it's on one line. With the /n, it's on 2 lines. And if you want to use the slash n, you apparently have to use double quotation marks. Fair enough. So puts basically does whatever text is in print and adds this character at the end. So that's the first lesson of a new course. If you're enjoying it, please give me a thumbs up, like, share, subscribe. If you're not, then do feel free to give me a comment telling me that you aren't enjoying it so that I can improve for next time, or maybe even change the course if too many people don't enjoy it. And yeah, if you have any questions also, do feel free to ask me in the comments. I will answer them as soon as possible. But until next time, thank you guys so much for watching, and goodbye.